Welcome back to PJ's Coffee on Airline Drive. We are live on NewOrleans.Football. I'm Brooke Kirchhoffer alongside Nick Underhill and Mike Triplett. The minute we walked into the practice facility today for Saints practice on Friday was seeing Derek Carr out there, helmet on, cleats on, and warm-ups. It was the most welcome sight that we have probably seen in recent years, where we have just been anticipating walking out to practice and being like, is he out there? More so than Alvin Kamara's suspension, because he knew he was healthy and coming back. But seeing Derek Carr out there and seemingly being ready to go, he was limited in practice. We're going to get into that a little bit later, as well as preview Bucs at Saints in the Superdome.
Yeah, and we are coming to you from PJ's on Airline Drive, one of the best locations that you can go to, beautifully built, brand new. They will get you in and out with the best coffee that you can find, I don't know, anywhere in America if you ask me. And we're coming to you from the Mobile Toro Hospital Studio, so if you have any medical needs, check out the LCMC Medical Network. They will get you right if you need to get right. And if you need to get there, call our guy, Matt Bowers. He'll get you a new car. He's got dealerships all over the Gulf Coast region. They got the best prices, the lowest prices, the best salesmen. They will take care of you. And we vouch for them, and that's where we buy all our cars. All right, let's get into the odds. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Are you looking for the perfect engagement ring? Look no further than Friend & Company Fine Jewelers' new engagement salon. This new area houses a wide selection of engagement rings to choose from in all cuts, sizes, and colors. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect ring to express your love. Visit their new engagement salon today. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the perfect ring for the perfect moment, and also for the perfect person. 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett Street. 504-866-5433. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Check them out at friendandcompany.com.
For fast relief coffee.
Mike Hoss here. When the AC goes out and it's hot outside, every second counts. For over 40 years, Keefe's AC Heating and Electrical has helped thousands of families stay cool in the sizzling hot months. Keefe's Get You Cool in 3 hours or less guarantee is what our customers love the most on the North or South Shore. Call Keefe's. We'll get you cool in 3 hours or less guaranteed.
Keefe's Air Conditioning and Heating.
And now electrical.
For fast relief coffee.
Moe's Barbecue is located in Metairie. They have your game day needs taken care of. Whether you're tailgating or watching the Black and Gold or LSU at home with friends, Moe's has you covered. Order pulled pork, wings, ribs, sides, and more. Come in with the family for lunch and dinner, as our kids' meals will please even the pickiest of eaters. Tailgating, parties at home, lunch and dinner, Moe's Barbecue will handle it all. Moe's Original Barbecue, 1101 North Causeway Boulevard between 48th and 49th Street in Metairie. Call 504-407-5333 for your catering order today. 504-407-5333. Moe's Original Barbecue in Metairie. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show.
Let's get into our lead topic presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is home to a new engagement salon where they have a wide selection of beautiful engagement rings. And while you're there, ask them about their fleur-de-lis earrings and necklace that you see I have on now. They are specially priced for our NOF audience. All right, the lead's an easy one. Who's starting at quarterback this Sunday?
It looks like Derek Carr, I think. I don't know. Based on what we saw out there, he looked great. Mm-hmm. He was throwing the ball down the field, routes on air, so pretty good distance, 30 yards through the air down the field, really no issue at all. Looked like his mechanics were solid, went into the red zone. He was throwing with velocity. He was getting the ball out. If you didn't know anything was wrong with him, I don't think that you would have been able to walk out there and tell that there was something wrong with him. So depending on how he responds to this, Dennis Allen said that'll be the big test. But if I had to place a bet today, if you said, hey, you got to put all your money on one guy versus the other, like, I'll put my money on Carr. Like, it looked like he's going to play. It looks like they intend for him to play. And if he wasn't going to play, I don't think he's out there. Like, you can't fake throwing the football down the field. Like you made the point to me on the sideline. You're like, well, this can't be for show because, like, what is the show? He's actually throwing the football.
Yeah.
So I think he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. Just what he did at practice alone is enough for him to play. The only change could be if he wakes up and it's like swollen like a watermelon tomorrow, or,
right.
or if he realized, no, I aggravated that worse, I've made it worse now. But from all indications, this isn't the type of injury that you're risking making worse by overuse. Dennis Allen said, obviously, like, he's a little more susceptible than somebody would be if they didn't have the injury at all. But that's not the factor here. The medical staff has pretty much already kind of signed off on it. He did enough in the 20 minutes we watched him throwing to be like, well, that's enough to function. I don't know what would possibly stop him at this point.
Yeah.
You think he's starting?
One of the big questions for me is how high up was he going to get his arm? Not only was he here, he was almost here at times. And you think about if you have an AC sprain right there and the shoulder, I think it's fair to say, look, there's no secret that he's probably likely getting some cortisone shots to deal with pain management, specifically with this injury, and that's not putting him in harm's way or endangering him. It's just to manage what I assume is a very painful injury. And we saw him out there. He was in good spirits. We're seeing him in the locker room. He's bouncing around, talking to guys. Everything we saw in today's practice is exactly what I saw last Friday with him. So there was nothing that told me, there's a limitation. Now, he was limited on the injury report, and Dennis Allen did label him as questionable, but I think he's only questionable today because Saturday is when they're going to make the decision on if he's good to go. They're going to run him through some more things and see if Derek Carr is available to go, and if he's not, they're going to go with Jameis Winston, who they continue to say they have a lot of confidence in, and we'll see what happens. But to me, Derek Carr, if it's up to him, he's playing Sunday, and he feels confident, too.
The other thing that's really notable today is everything that you just said would be true if he was just working it off to the side. How does his arm look? Is he getting the range of motion or whatever? But he wasn't just working off to the side. He was running their offensive reps. He was taking those reps
QB1
away
in
from
practice.
Jameis Winston. So if they were very skeptical that Carr was going to play, they wouldn't want to take those. I mean, Winston would need those reps. So I think their plan of attack today was, let's go forward as if it's Carr, and I think it would take a setback to change that.
Yeah, dude threw the ball. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, he threw the ball. He was running the offense. Like, there's really no interpretation. Like, if he's feeling okay tomorrow, you start. And, like, it's really that simple. Like, we saw it today. Like, there's no subterfuge here. There's no, like, let's fool the Bucs and whoop-de-doo, here's Jameis.
Yeah.
Like, if Jameis is out there, it's because their plan actually went wrong.
I think the Saints can find more success with Derek Carr playing Sunday if he's even like at 80% than they would if Jameis Winston was in. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, sorry to cut you off there. I would like to say yes, but now we're just going back to let's pretend like the shoulder injury never happened, and this would be our third show of the week where we're talking about why isn't this offense successful. The Derek Carr that we thought heading into the season that we were going to see running this offense and masterfully getting the ball to the playmakers because he makes such good decisions and has such good timing. Yeah, but we didn't see it in the 3 games when he started healthy, so I don't know why magically we'll see it now. But I think we've all thought it was a matter of time before this offense gets going. But obviously, healthy Derek Carr, injured Derek Carr. Something else needs to fix this offense in addition to who's playing quarterback.
Yeah, but I think the offense has kind of been about the same or better than it's been the last couple of years. It's not like when Jameis was in there, he wasn't putting up massive numbers every week either. Like, they were lower numbers. So I think Carr's been as good or better. And I think, 80%, you're going with the guy that's been in rhythm with the offense for the last 3 weeks. You aren't putting somebody in there cold, like trying to figure things out on the fly. So I think just even on a comfortability, knowing, what the guy sounds like, doing the snap count, keeping the offensive line, like, which does need to get in order. I think consistency there helps them as well. So I just think all those things together, Pete Carmichael's chemistry with Carr, I do think that it, like 80, 85%, you have the best chance of winning. That's why they're starting them. They're telling us that Carr, even a little bit banged up, he's a starting quarterback. You want to keep that continuity going. So, I would agree with that. I think like a little bit hindered. You're still better off just staying with what's consistent.
Now, the Bucs kind of run in the middle of the pack in the NFL when it comes to run and pass defense. Given what we've seen from the Saints offense, specifically the offensive line issues, do we expect Tampa Bay to kind of attack one area specifically in the Saints offense?
Well, what's interesting is we've talked about, I think, the game plan we want to see from the Saints or we expect to see or almost that they have to do is quick passes, get some rhythm going. get some 5-yard gains on first down, get into manageable situations, get Alvin Kamara involved in the offense now that he's back. And I think Derek Carr's probably better for Alvin Kamara than Jameis Winston would be because that has always been something that Jameis has been working on, trying to get the ball to Alvin Kamara in time. But against this defense, I think this defense is pretty susceptible. I think their two bigger weaknesses are their outside corners, especially since they've got in injuries at cornerback this week, and their pass rush is so-so. But they're great in the middle of the field. They've got maybe the best linebacker duo in the league, and they've got one of the best interior safeties in the league. Antoine Winfield's all over the field. But those guys make it a little harder to operate in the middle of the field. So it's an intriguing matchup, I think.
I think the question, though, like where do we want them? Where would you attack if you were the? I'm coming at the middle of the offensive line with Vita Vea and Hall. Like I think those are the spots where you're attacking. They had major issues there last week with the Packers' 2 interior pass rushers. I think that the Saints need to find a way to kind of slide a little bit more protection. I'm going to try to make him throw the ball. He's got a messed up shoulder, so I'm bringing everything right up the middle of the field to make him as uncomfortable as possible, and I'm going to try to make him hit throws to the outside of the field and test that shoulder. So that would be my plan throughout this whole game, and I think they have the guys up front in the middle to kind of maybe pull that off a little bit. So that's the one thing that would like really worry me if I'm the Saints is just Carr having pressure in his face and trying to make throws, and I think maybe you get a pick that way.
Yeah, it's a scary matchup, and we're going to get to our matchups a little bit later in the show. But before we get to the final injury report of the week, Alvin Kamara is back. Do we expect Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller to have that nice 1-2 punch in the run game, or is the offensive line going to even squander that opportunity?
I mean, we'll see. You know, that's really the big question. Like, there is no 1-2 punch because they're going to get hit in the jaw before they can throw a punch. Like, they're catching the haymaker. And right now, like, is there even any room to get, like, a counter punch off? If they aren't blocking, they're in big trouble. So it's really so contingent on those guys up front this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'd be a perfect complement for each other. I mean, I asked Alvin Kamara, like, it was one of the big stories of the offseason was he was very excited about how it was a priority for Dennis Allen, it was a priority for Pete Carmichael, it was a priority for Derek Carr, it was a priority for Alvin to use him more in space, in the passing game, kind of like how they've used him in the past and to try to recapture that part of his game because they had so much running back depth that they'd be a great complement. Kendre Miller, Jamal Williams, who we don't have right now. In the Saints lineup. So that would be they should be very complementary together. But until we see the offensive line work, I don't know that we can expect any of that stuff to work efficiently.
The thing that bringing Alvin back this week, I think the biggest benefit is that's possibly something that Carr can go to help himself if there is quick pressure coming. He can kind of be that quick outlet. He runs really good routes out of the backfield. He knows how to kind of like sit and keep himself friendly to the quarterback. So I think that's one element that helps, and that's another reason. Going back to the previous question, like Carr versus Jameis, like I think Carr can do a better job of just kind of being the guy that gets the ball to Alvin, and you allow Alvin to kind of get the ball in space a little bit. So that's the one spot. But yeah, theoretically, I think these two guys fit together extremely well. Kendre's kind of like a hammer with a little bit of juke to him. Alvin's a guy with juke, and fits in with that. So I think you can kind of have like the Mark Ingram Alvin combination of 2017 with those two, just with their styles of play. But you got to have blocking for that to work. And they were the best screen team in the league back then, and that's because they were blocking really, really well. They don't necessarily do that this season.
Well, they're going to be down one of their starting offensive linemen. Let's get to the injury report. Cesar Ruiz is out with a concussion. He was not able to move out of concussion protocol after suffering a concussion in Green Bay. Jordan Howden is out with his finger injury, which probably leads to what you were talking about Wednesday. He likely had surgery on that finger. Derek Carr is questionable, as we mentioned. Paulson Adebo is out again. So it's again going to be Isaac Yiadom having to step up there opposite of Marshon Lattimore. Great test this week for him. Not necessarily good for the Saints, but we'll see if Isaac Yiadom can meet that challenge. And then Foster Moreau is questionable. But more interesting than the Saints side of this is the Bucs side. So Carlton Davis, cornerback, is questionable. Cornerback Jamel Dean is ruled out. And then another cornerback, Derek Pitts, is also ruled out. The other two that are ruled out for the Bucs is a linebacker and a defensive lineman. And then Vita Vea and Devin White are both questionable. Now, given Devin White's kind of mental nature and him viewing this as a true rivalry with the Saints, I would expect Devin White to kind of pull a Derek Carr and be like, get me on the field, I want to play. But if the Bucs are down Vita Vea and Devin White. That's huge for the Saints.
Yeah, and look, Carlton Davis better be healthy in this game because there is beef between him and Mike Thomas. The tweets, I don't know if you guys remember the tweets where he called him like little dude and told him to get his routes right. Like, if I know anything about Mike Thomas, he's just been seething to get back out there against this guy. So Carlton Davis better be ready for that matchup. The Saints, though, I mean, the thing that scares me a little bit about this one is I don't think Yadam got the test of a Chris Godwin on the outside in week 1, so we're about to find out if he can actually cover against a really, really, really high-end wide receiver, and then you're down into not safety 2, safety 3. You're at safety 4 this week with Lonnie Johnson out there. I know Lonnie Johnson's eager to get out there and kind of prove his point a little bit. He feels like he's been overlooked throughout his career, but this is a game where I think all those guys are going to be tested. So that's a major area of concern for me with the Saints secondary.
And I think they'll keep testing Alontae Taylor in the slot, too. We were looking this up, that Chris Godwin, he used to spend most of his time in the slot do most of his damage in the slot. He hasn't been in the slot as much, but both him and Mike Evans will take turns going in there, and I think that's a matchup they're going to try to attack, too. It's what Green Bay did to try to get back in that game. They weren't attacking Marshon. They were attacking everybody else in that secondary.
All right. Can the offensive line meet the moment this Sunday? And especially with Cesar Ruiz out, presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company, can the offensive line keep whoever is at quarterback clean in this game based on what we've seen from the Bucs this year?
The question of the season. I don't know what is going to trigger that. I mean, they have to play better than they've played so far. It's almost impossible not to. I guess maybe they've sort of made gradual improvement. I think Pete Carmichael would probably be malpractice if he didn't come up with a game plan that took notice of the fact that he can't fully trust the offensive line. I mean, the one thing they want to do more than anything, and we said it, everybody has said it this week, they don't, first and second downs can't be failures. They don't want to be in 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, and they certainly don't want to put Derek Carr in a position where he's standing in the packet. So it has to be better, but am I confident in it? No way am I overly confident in it until we see drastic improvements.
Yeah, I think it's impossible to know, but you talked to Ramczyk today, and he had some interesting stuff to say kind of about the approach in practice. What did he say to you?
I know at this point we have to ask them, is there any adjustments in practice, or are you guys doing anything to try and fix some of the protections? And he did say they did add some new drills, and when I asked him to give specifics on those drills, he of course wasn't going to open it all up to us, but he did say a lot of it's just going back to fundamentals and making sure we're in the right spot, because when you have so many of these issues, you have to go all the way back to fundamentals. Is it too late in the season for them to fix things because you're already 3 games in? And look, this is the offensive line you're going with. Yes, they did have some tryouts, but when I'm looking at that list as far as athletes and talent, their starting 5 should be good enough, and they're just not meeting their potential, in my opinion. I don't think it's a matter of they are bad talents. They're just not meeting their potential. Yeah,
and Ramczyk, the most interesting thing there, he said they spent more time on pass pro, too, this week. So that's, at least they're aware of it. But I agree with you. I mean, I think they just have to, you aren't going to go out and find somebody that's better than your starters right now. If you're looking for people, it's probably depth. I know Collins is out there. I don't know necessarily if you bring him in and it's an immediate difference over the guys you have right now. But they got to figure it out with the ones they have, and I think that's what they want to do. I know they like the character of that room, so we're going to see if they can kind of pull it together and become cohesive and build something. But are they going to meet the moment this week? I don't know. I don't have confidence yet. I'm at the point I got to see it before I believe it. I can't just be like, oh, they're going to get better, because it's been shaky enough. It's a known issue. It's crazy to hear the players even kind of normally there's a little bit of defensiveness to it. It's just no,
they know they're playing bad.
It has been terrible. So they know, the coach knows, DA put them on notice. They changed up how they practice. Let's see if it works.
You know who's tired of it? The tight ends, who are lacking in production because you're having to throw out not necessarily Jimmy Graham, but more so Juwan Johnson out there to be an extension of the offensive line. Is this maybe when we can see more Juwan Johnson this week? Because he's been somebody who's unfortunately his job has drastically changed.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons he hasn't gotten the ball thrown to him a
Yeah.
lot, too. And look, I feel like Foster Moreau coming possibly back this week to play is huge because he's their best blocker. So if you got him on the field, I think that
And let
helps.
Juwan out.
That helps a little bit, yeah. And if Juwan can get out there and run some routes, maybe you get the ball to him. But it's kind of been limiting to the offense and the whole scope because you're just playing in these different personnels where they got to be tight to the formation. You're trying to help out the offensive line. You aren't getting the tight ends out there like that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, though. Like, I don't know if this is the week we see it. I'm not, again, that comes down to, like, can 5 block 4? And so far, the answer to that has been no.
All right, let's get to our fantasy segment presented by the Louisiana Lottery. Michael Thomas, over under 6 catches.
Well, Nick just foreshadowed with the Carlton Davis talk. Yeah, I'll take over. I feel like this will be a big Mike game. Like we said, the game plan should be a high volume of quick, maybe shorter, more efficient passes to get this offense going. So I'm going to take the over on completions. So I'm going to take the over on receptions for everybody. And I think throwing to Mike, the funny thing was that got their offense going in week 2, throwing to Mike 7 times the first half. When Jameis came into the game last week, he was immediately targeting Mike to try to get the offense going. Mike is a good way to get ahead of the sticks and to get in favorable situations. So I think he should be a big part of this game plan.
I'll take the over. Yeah, I'll take the over. I like the matchup for him. Mike just kind of said it all. Like, you got a hindered cornerback. I'm guessing that's how they go about it. Like, normally I think you probably put Carlton Davis on, like, Chris Olave, but they played it differently before, so I think they're probably going to play it the same way. They'll probably have Carlton Davis on Mike. And if they do, I think, I just like Mike in a spite situation is crazy. Like, I'm not ever going to bet against
Well,
that.
the Bucs have a lot of problems. It's not just Michael Thomas. Rashid Shaheed's having a good year as well. Chris Olave, if you can, plug in Foster Moreau as an extension of the offensive line and have Juwan Johnson as an option. Let's not forget Alvin Kamara's back as well as Taysom Hill, depending on how they use him. Like, this Saints offense, when it's clicking, can be a problem, and I think that's been our frustration. Yeah. That's been the fans' frustration.
It should be 300 yards a game, easy.
It should be. We'll see if it'll be this Sunday. We will continue breaking everything down. Coming up after this short break, we will have the matchups. Coach Nick is back with his film breakdown, and we'll hear from you, the fans, with our question of the day. Stay with us.
Now, at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company, get our $10.99 shrimp remoulade combos with zesty shrimp remoulade and fried shrimp or catfish for only $10.99. And did you hear? Soft-shelled crabs are back at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
Are you tired of renting and ready to own your dream home? Contact Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, your trusted source for home loans. Our competitive rates and flexible terms can help make your home ownership dreams a reality. If you're a first-time home buyer or looking to refinance, our experienced lenders are here to help. Our online application process allows you to apply on your schedule. It's quick, easy, and convenient. Visit us online at jeffersonfinancial.org to learn more. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
At Turo, we were born for moments like this. From bringing new bundles of joy into the world to delivering what new mothers need to stay healthy. Born to keep hearts beating strong and to keep seniors active and healthy for years to come. Because at Turo, we deliver more than babies. From heart care to cancer care and newborns to seniors. At Turo.
Novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
I'll take a New Orleans Saints scratch up. Play New Orleans Saints from the lottery. Just scratch, fold, and punch your way to winnings. Punch your ticket with New Orleans Saints. Win up to $100,000. Enter our second chance drawings, giving you a season to smile.
Welcome back to the Mobile Toro Hospital studio. We are live at the PJ's Coffee on Airline, and this is our last show before kickoff, which means the matchups are back. And What better way to start than Marshon Lattimore versus Mike Evans, the one everybody is going to be watching for. All right, the two have lined up against each other 388 times. In those 388 times, Evans has 48 targets, 23 receptions, 4 touchdowns. Marshon has 1 interception in that 388 times, 2 dropped interceptions, and 10 forced incompletions. Man, is it a rivalry or is it like Marshon and Mike Evans?
It's unbelievable. There's we all think the world of Marshon and his talent level. We all said he was the best player on the team, and we all think, he has Hall of Fame potential at this position. But his dominance of Mike Evans still defies logic to me. You would think Evans had one big game. Other ones are there are 0 catch games in there. There are it's I've never seen dominance. Mike Evans is probably a Hall of Fame receiver.
Mike's had 2 decisive wins over Marshon.
But it's uncanny, and obviously Marshon's in his head. Marshon's in his back pocket. There's too much of a sample size to say, well, it's probably a statistical anomaly. He wins this matchup, and I am same thing we said earlier. Until I see otherwise, I think Mike Evans has been the best thing going for the Bucs, and I think the Saints have a Mike Evans stopper, Mike Evans kryptonite, and it's probably the best reason why I have confidence in the Saints in this matchup.
One of the crazy thing, I don't know what the number is, but just kind of going back to whatever the stats were, I think if you ran the math on it, there's probably about a 90 quarterback rating, though, when targeting him with Marshon in coverage, because there aren't that many interceptions. Some of that's based on opportunity, too. But Mike has had some wins, but when Marshon blanks him, it's completely suffocating. And I've said this line a million times before. Saints fans are going to go down thinking Mike Evans is an average dude, and he's going to make the Hall of Fame, and he should make the Hall of Fame. He's probably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now through 3 weeks this year. He's playing that well. I think Marshon's playing equally as well at his position. I like the matchup. I do think that Baker Mayfield's really good for him, and it might be one of the – I don't know, just the reliance on him is almost 2019 Mike Thomas reliance, where it's just I'm throwing to him first every single time. Yeah,
he's making Baker look really good. We would not be talking about Baker Mayfield like this 3 weeks into the season without Mike Evans.
Yeah, no question about it. But, it is a – This is Marshon at his best, and you aren't gonna blank every single time either. You're going against a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver. You're not going to win every single game. There was the one bomb down the field. Yep. I think he had a 2-touchdown game against Marshon, not last year, but maybe the year before.
The big game that he had against Marshon was years ago. It was several years ago.
Yeah, I think he had a 2-touchdown game within the last 2 years. It's definitely Marshon at his best.
And just a couple of things that kind of tip in the scales of Marshon Lattimore and Alontae Taylor right now. They currently lead the NFL in passes defended. Alontae Taylor at 7 and Marshon Lattimore at 6. And we mentioned Isaac Yiadom a little bit earlier. This is going to be a game where he really can prove, hey, you can plug me in and there's not going to be a whole lot of drop-off. Now, will he prove that potentially against Chris Godwin, who is likely going to be on the outside? And, Mike, you can get into those stats since you looked those up. He's most likely going to be outside than he would be in the slot.
Yeah, I think he will be, because he's only spent, I think, 32% of the time in the slot this year, which is lower than his usual number. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay tries to mix that up a little bit. But you can kind of test him either way. Would you rather test Alontae Taylor in the slot as he still continues to work the game? Alontae Taylor makes a lot of big plays when you test him in the slot, even though every once in a while you can complete passes against him. There's also a little danger zone there, and we know Alontae is overdue for his next interception, so he's an aggressive guy. I bet they'll attack Yiadom more, but I think Yadom's at least a pro. I don't think the drop-off from Adebo to Yiadom, I think they'd be testing Adebo if Adebo was the one in there too. So I don't know which matchup I think favors the Saints more, but those are the two guys they're going to test. Now, they will throw some to Mike Evans against Marshon, just because it would be an insult to Mike Evans to get him a chance to change the tide. But it's the other guys that are going to attack without question.
All right, let's get to the next matchup. Baker Mayfield versus the Saints pass defense. Okay, when Baker is under pressure, he's 20 of 28 with 1 touchdown and has a 114.4 passer rating. But last year when he was throwing under pressure, he had a 51.1 passer rating. He's only been sacked 3 times this year, though. The Saints meanwhile, rank 8th in passing defense, giving up just under 200 passing yards a game. The Saints also lead the NFL in passes defended with 26. And Cam Jordan and Carl Granderson have been stepping up in a way this year where Cam Jordan has seemingly found the fountain of youth, and Carl Granderson has stepped up into a role that I think this matchup maybe, I hate to say it favors the Saints again because we just went back-to-back with Saints favoring in these matchups, but it seems like the Saints might be able to put some pressure on Baker Mayfield and get under his skin a little bit.
And I think that number there is a result. That's the Mike Evans effect. So if Marshon's taking away Mike Evans and you don't have your safety blanket, I think it becomes a lot harder to operate like that, and then we kind of see Baker go back to kind of who Baker has actually been, because that dude under pressure, that's a Hall of Fame type quarterback. Yeah. He's not a Hall of Fame type quarterback. He's a very, very average player. So I think that's where we're going to see it come back to. So if you can make him uncomfortable, you are getting your guys in there. I think there's a chance for the Saints to make some plays this week.
You said we wouldn't be talking about Baker Mayfield like this. Everything I've heard anyone say about Baker Mayfield is, how long can he keep this up?
Yeah.
When will the real? I don't know that anyone is sold this is what he looks like. But the biggest compliment about Baker Mayfield is only 3 sacks this year, and a lot of that is him too, not just the Bucs protection, but him. Not, some of the same things we said about Jameis Winston in the past, not trying to stay in the pocket too long and think you can make miracles happen. Baker has done a good job of taking what is there for him and only getting sacked 3 times. The other thing is they do have one of the better left tackles in football in Tristan Wirfs. He used to play right tackle, so now it'll be a matchup on the other side. Maybe Cam Jordan will look forward to teeing off on somebody else with Wirfs on the left side. But, it's not a free pass to get to him, but Nick makes an excellent point. If his security blanket is taken away, that'll make it a lot better.
Yeah, I believe Baker's averaging 8.8 air yards per attempt this year, which is 15th or 16th in the NFL. So he is very, very safe in not necessarily pushing too far down the field.
I really like this next matchup. All right, it's the 3-headed monster against Alvin Kamara. A part of that 3-headed monster, of course, is the linebacker duo in Tampa Bay, Devin White and Levante David, and also add in that third head, safety Antoine Winfield. Man, they are going to be gunning for Alvin Kamara in this game. Look, the Bucs have given up 66 yards on 5 screens thrown to specifically running backs this season. And Levante David went crazy in Week 13 against the Saints last year. 12 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss. Devin White went nuts in the Week 2 game against the Saints last year when it was Winston at quarterback. 11 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass defended, and 1 forced fumble. Now look, Alvin Kamara has been out for the first 3 weeks, and last year against the Bucs in Week 13, we're only referencing that one because he was inactive in that Week 2 matchup. Alvin only had 2 catches for 11 yards. Can he potentially, I think with Derek Carr, we've been mentioning if it's Derek Carr at quarterback, he's going to find Alvin Kamara probably more than Winston would, but can Alvin Kamara be effective in the passing game?
If I was going against Alvin Kamara, you told me I could pick any 2 linebackers in the league, I might pick Levante David and Devin White. Look, Levante David is a little more in the Cam Jordan zone. He's not in his absolute prime, but that's an incredible duo, and it's a duo that can work sideline to sideline and make up a lot of ground if you want to attack. I'm kind of surprised they've been as vulnerable against screen passes as they have been this year. And Winfield's really interesting, too. I mean, he has done a little of everything. He's been in the slot. He's been playing more deep safety this year, but he's a really good middle field guy, too. So I think it's a fascinating matchup. I mean, especially when you throw Mike Thomas in there, when you throw in the Saints wanting to get the ball to their tight ends. I really think the best way to attack Tampa Bay's defense, especially with Jamel Dean out of this game, would be if you could sit back and throw it deep. But we know the Saints, that's a tall order for the Saints this year. So I think this is one of the most fascinating matchups of the game for sure.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, I mean, it's a division game. As Brooke said, they've been bad against the screens this year, and there's been some explosives. Like, they've been bad against screens this year. Last year, though, they only gave up 12 for 72. And, again, division game, like, Alvin used to be awesome against everybody and bad against the Falcons because the Falcons knew how to play him really, really well. So I think sometimes that stuff happens. But I like that Alvin's out there because if you are keying on him and he's the guy you're trying to take away, now I think the middle of the field is open for guys like Mike. Maybe Juwan gets some passes thrown to him. So if you're overcompensating for Alvin, there's just such a plethora of weapons that something else should be opening up. And if you're playing man and you're bringing those like linebackers down and you're cheating a little bit, like I like that. Or if you're bringing your safety down, I like it over the top for Olave and Shaheed. So I think Alvin just being in this game, like he could do nothing, and I think have a very, very high effect on.
Completely
on
agree. And we talked about how much attention they're going to pay to Mike. I mean, there is an opportunity here for Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed if they can get that part of the game going.
Starts with the offensive line, though. How will the Saints offensive line hold up against the Bucs front seven? Now, look, the Saints offensive line has been a problem, but when you look around the NFL, it seems like there's been a few teams that have been struggling. Believe it or not, the Saints are tied for fourth with highest sacks allowed with 12 sacks. So they're not the only team that's been struggling this year. There's been several other ones. Now the Bucs have 9 sacks through week 3. Who wins this battle?
Boy, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know. It's such a toss-up. I got to pick against the Saints. I've seen too much. I know the warts. I know what the underbelly looks like, and the underbelly is really, really ugly.
The Bucs' 2 edge rushers, I don't think either of them are world beaters. Shaq Barrett, for a while, was a world beater. He was like a lightning in a bottle guy a couple years ago. He's had some really good seasons, and he's healthy now. They have the rookie first-round pick, Joe Tryon, who's in his 3rd year now. They're both pretty good, I would say, as far as edge rushers go, but the problem is they're both speed rushers. They're both those smaller speed rushers, the kind of guys that the Saints don't usually draft, and the kind of guys who've been giving Trevor Penning trouble. So Penning had a really good week last week against Green Bay's big front. That's going to be a test again. How is Trevor Penning equipped to handle this speed rush? They kind of switch sides. He's going to see both of them in this game.
All right, we've talked about the Bucs wide receivers against the cornerbacks. Let's talk about the Bucs wide receivers against the Saints safeties in our last matchup in this segment. Baker Mayfield has only completed 2 passes traveling 30 or more yards through the air and has made it his mission to complete passes in the shorter areas of the field. His 8.8 average depth of target ranks 16th in the NFL. Tyrann Mathieu, though, has not missed a tackle on a passing play this season. This could be one where, yes, he's going to be playing with a new safety as Jordan Howden is out. It's likely going to be Lonnie Johnson getting the start next to Tyrann Mathieu, but man, Tyrann Mathieu is going to have his work cut out for him this week.
Well, that's a great stat, though, because if you need a cleanup man this week because Yadam's giving stuff up or the other safety's kind of blowing things and he's the last line of defense.
It's Tyrann.
It's Tyrann. So I like the way he's playing, and I think that's just very emblematic of how well he's settled in to the defense overall. He's missed 2 tackles against the run, I believe, just thinking back to my film study, but nothing against the pass, and that's good. Like last year, early in the season, that was where you kind of saw, like, he was coming in. He was a little bit rusty. I remember one in London where he kind of, was isolated a little bit and stood out for missing a tackle. But I think that just kind of shows, like, he's just much more locked in. And me and Brooke talked to him this week. Like, I loved how he was talking about how it's hard for, like, the other guys on the field, like, to play with him because he is so tough on him and he demands so much. And I think that we've seen Tyrann kind of become the leader that everybody thought he was going to be when he came in. And again, last year was just weird because he missed some time. I think it just took a little bit of time for that to come together. But you pointed out in one of the dots, I think, just like how he was just taking Lonnie Johnson and Jonathan Abram off to the side and kind of showing them, what to do and talking to him. And you see him, like, gesturing and all this stuff. Like, I think all that stuff's important, and I think it helps with this matchup.
Yeah.
But again, these safeties, being down 2, it is a big deal. So that's something you just want to kind of whistle past. I think it's a major factor in this game. And Baker is throwing kind of a little bit more shallow. But if you're the OC for the Bucs, like, I think 3 of your first 10 plays have to be shots down to the field, to the side of the field that Yadam's on, and you just try to see if those safeties have the range to get there.
I love Tyrann's energy. I love his leadership this year, too. That'll be my bold prediction for the game. He finally gets in the interception column. But here's what you have to do against Baker Mayfield. Yes, he wants to throw those short, efficient passes, the same ones we've been saying we want to see from the Saints. And, when you can't do it when you're in 3rd and long. The Saints have to get the Bucs in 3rd and long. And as bad as the Saints' running game has been, Tampa Bay's is worse. 32nd in the league, 2.79 yards per carry. This team has not been able to run the ball. The Saints need to exploit that and take advantage of that and force Baker to be in some situations where he has to throw the ball in 3rd and long.
All right, you guys loved this segment of the Coach Nick film breakdown. We're bringing that back, and we've got some new options to work with as far as making sure you guys can see exactly what Nick is working on. He's drawing up the play right now. We'll get to that in just a moment. But this is our money segment presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Nick, before we get to it, tell us the situation we're in right now.
Yeah, we're looking at the Jimmy Graham touchdown.
Spoiler alert.
My pen is not working. All right,
there we go.
All right, so we're looking at the Jimmy Graham touchdown, and I really love this play just because it really shows up the tight window on just what Derek Carr was able to do. So I'm just going to draw up the routes right here. You got Jimmy running that. You got Mike coming out of the slot here. You got Olave here. And then you got Tony Jones out to the outside. It just kind of spreads them out a little bit. And you got Jimmy coming right here. And you got these two guys. They're going to be in coverage. And then this guy's going to be over there too. Let's go to the next page. Did not do that as smooth as I wanted to, but that's all right. We got Jimmy here again. And then, again, you got the two guys there. Carr's looking at it. Look at this. A clean pocket. Like, you don't see that too much in the Saints offense. So definitely something that helped him there. It allowed the play to develop a little bit. If you had anything coming in there, like, I don't think that you have the ability to get the ball into this tight window through there. So that pocket was kind of everything on this play. You got Penning right there. He's blocking well. You got Ramczyk right up the middle. You got a blitzer. It's getting picked up. Like, all that stuff is just so huge for that play coming together. Let me get to the last one. And then right here, you got Jimmy just making the play. And Carr gets it between all the people. Like, it was one of the best throws that I think he's made the whole entire season. And, yeah, I mean, it was just a really nice play design. You get him in space, but really it comes down to the blocking. And it just kind of goes to show, like, how important that was for them in that moment to actually have good blocking. And if it shows up, your playmakers can make plays. Like, that was Jimmy's first touchdown. Big guy in the red zone. You can throw into that tight window. But you don't ever see the tight window if you aren't blocking it well.
Yeah, we've got a great question coming up for our Martin Wine & Spirits question of the day. Martin Wine & Spirits is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. The reason why I say this is a good question coming up. It plays into how they should run the offense this week. Seth asks, should the offense utilize tempo/hurry-up offense in non-2-minute drill situations to get into a rhythm earlier? I remember it being effective with Jameis at quarterback just last year. Seems like the right time to implement it again. We haven't necessarily seen it yet with Derek Carr in situations, though, outside of that 2-minute.
They've done good in the 2-minute. Look, I've heard Nick ask this question a million times.
Yeah, let me spin.
What I was going to say is I'm going to send it to you, but this falls in the same category of the why don't they use Taysom Hill more? Why don't they do more stuff with Rashid Shaheed? Prove to me this doesn't work before you tell me it can't work.
I can tell you what. You go out there, you run hurry up, you go 3 and out, your defense is back on the field in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing there. If you're out there doing hurry up and you run 6 plays and you take 90 seconds off the clock, your defense is back out on the field too quick. It's too much stress on the team. And the way they run their hurry up offense, there's like a handful of hand signals. Like, if you're doing that all throughout the game, it's so exposed. Someone's going to figure it out. Like, you can't do it. And also, like, the way they just operate offense right away, they are one of the teams that get in and out of the huddle faster than almost everybody. So it's almost a fire drill as it goes. They use so many personnel groupings. There's guys coming in and out. You become vanilla in that sense. And if you're just doing it the whole game, like, I think it just gets solved. It puts too much pressure on your defense. It's an impractical thing. It's one of those things that you can look at and say, this should work. It works so well here. Why don't you do it all the time? But, like, it works in that specific situation because it's not stressing out your whole entire operation. Like, you go back to the Chip Kelly Eagles, that stuff worked great in college. You brought it to the NFL, and the team just completely fell apart. The whole system didn't work, and it was based on that hurry up throughout the whole game. Their turbo offense, they called one-word plays, and their team just could not keep up with it because it's just fraying the whole fabric of the whole entire team. So you have to have your offense on the field. And the way they're playing, like, they aren't going to sustain these drives. They're going to run 5 plays and be out, and that's going to be it. So, like, you can't operate like that throughout a whole game.
No, to be fair, I do not advocate for operating that way the whole game. And the best thing you said in there is the hallmark of the Saints offense over the years has been diversifying personnel groupings, bringing different guys in. You get information about the defense there. I mean, you see it. Like you said, it's like a fire drill. But I would not mind seeing it once in a while as a change of pace to revive a sagging offense. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of sagging offense. It just adds to the do something else lack of creativity that can frustrate fans and us at times as well.
All right, we missed this last week. We're adding it back in. This is going to be a Friday segment. We got to get to the game predictions. Go ahead, Mike.
I was worried about that Green Bay game. I was prepared to both sides of the hell out of the game because they had so many injuries, and I just didn't like them going on the road on a short week. I figured if you're going to pick against the Saints at some point, I just didn't like the situation. I love the situation now. I mean, obviously the Derek Carr injury is unfortunate, but at home against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is the team on the short week. They played a lousy game on Monday night. I'm picking the Saints to win. You better take advantage, and I am going to use this as an excuse to talk about my favorite thing of the whole week. If you didn't see the Chris Godwin quote where he described what it's like to come into the Superdome, it was the best Superdome description I've ever heard, where he said, it's dark in there, there's no windows, it's like they lock the doors behind you and put you in there, and you're in an arena, and you just have your guys, and you've got to try to fight your way out. It was my favorite Superdome description I've ever heard. The Saints got to use the Superdome to their advantage. They've got to use a struggling opponent to their advantage, and I think they will.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that description.
I cannot believe they didn't put some natural light in that building when they did the renovations. It is the one thing it needs. It's like a dark basement. Like, it absolutely is. So I agree with that description 100%. The game day experience would be so much better if there was just a little bit of light coming in.
They did do that when you enter. Now we don't, because we go straight to the
garage.
With those atrium areas for the fans. You get a glimpse of light before they go into the dark cave.
No, they're in the basement. We're in the attic where the AC is just cooking us the whole time, and we feel like we have to be like bring out what are those big jackets called?
Down jackets. Yeah.
I mean, it's seriously. No, I'm trying
Gore-Tex
to think of the word.
or whatever.
I can't think of a parka. Like, you've got to bring your parka and a beanie and gloves. Anyways.
You need a lining, a parka.
It's a tough environment. Only the tough survive.
Yeah, no question about it. What's the spread for this game? Anybody know what the spread is?
I think it's
Saints
it up. By 3. But
someone look it up while I'm talking and yell it and Brandon, look it up. But, I think the Saints are going to win the game, but I don't think it's going to be like you got to be scared a little bit. The quarterback's hurt. So I think that plays into it a little bit. I would probably guess you're down a cornerback, you're down 2 safeties. Like, these are all kind of emergency things a little bit. But I still think they're going to find a way to win the game. I would go 20-17, I think, the Saints. I think that's probably where I'd put it right now. Saints, okay, so there we go.
I feel like now people are going to think that I'm lying when I say this, but I think the Saints win by 3. Yeah. I think it is going to be a close game. The reason why I don't think this is going to highly favor the Saints is because they've just struggled to get the offense going. Even if you do have add Alvin Kamara in, the offensive line struggles to me are still too big. And meanwhile, Tampa Bay is cooking. Like, their offense is getting on a roll. They are up there in scoring. We're going to see if the Saints can keep up with the Bucs scoring. Now, it will help if Marshon Lattimore and Tyrann Mathieu are locking people down, and Alontae Taylor as well. But this one scares me more than the Packers, just because we haven't seen it yet from the Saints. Like, I don't have a lot of confidence yet to be like, oh, man, the Saints are winning this game. I think they win by 3, but even that, I'm like, ooh, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucs win by 3.
Yeah, I mean, injured quarterback usually is the time where you're going to find this, like, missing piece of confidence. And, this is the week I'm going to project everything clicks. Like, maybe it is, but it's just that's not something that you can reasonably do with Carr's situation.
Well, we are going to be doing something a little bit different on Sunday. Nick and I are going to be coming to you live from the Superdome. Fingers crossed that the Wi-Fi there works and we are able to come to you live and have no issues. We're going to have some fun fantasy segments to throw at you Sunday morning. So be sure to look for us around 9:30. We'll be joining you live from the Superdome, and we'll see you then.